Let me talk a little bit about Astellas, kind of environment we're working in. We have a Vision 2015, which is what we created to drive us for the 10-year plan. And then talk a little bit about our global category leadership and global expansion. So as a company, we are a top 20 pharmaceutical company. Our heritage is Japanese, and we're a merged company from Yamanouchi and Fujisawa. And when the merger came, we decided, instead of taking a name like Fujiyama or Yamafuji, we decided to go to Astellas. And there was a real strategic reason, is because we want to be a global company, still have a Japanese heritage. And the name Astellas actually has a name in Greek, Latin base, as well as in Japanese, which is about the stars and hope. So it's a word that translates into most languages, which is quite unusual to find that, given the complexity of the Japanese language and pronunciation, let alone with the European. And they found it, so we're very, very pleased about that. Again, 14,000 employees globally, and we have very good representation between the US, Japan, and Europe. And as a company, about 50% of our sales comes from Japan, about 22% from Europe, 20% from America, the rest Asia. So we're actually a bit larger than the US, and that's more from a legacy historical point of view. And our headquarters in the US is in near Chicago. It's in Deerfield, Illinois. In Europe, it's in Staines, which is basically London suburb near Heathrow Airport, about 10-minute drive. So it's very convenient for me, at least. And Asia, we have 8 affiliates. Let's see if this works. This kind of shows you, look at the top left, that is the headquarters, which is in London. And then look at the top right is our manufacturing plant in Meppel, where we have formula of our products. The bottom left is our manufacturing in Dublin, where we do our tacrolimus immunology product program. And the bottom right is our new, the bottom is our new R&D. So we have an R&D facility in Europe, in Holland. And we have our global development in Illinois, Deerfield, as well as the research is in Japan. So the good news is, from a European perspective, we actually have a research and development center in Europe, which really looks after the needs not just globally, but we have European-only products as well. Okay, both internally as well as licensed. Also, what's important for the company is the corporate social responsibility, and we have a thing called Changing Tomorrow. And really it is about making sure that whatever we do really makes a difference. Now, we're very unique in that our industry by nature is actually socially responsible, about public health, trying to make sure that we provide value-added products that save people's lives, high unmet needs. But in addition to that, we do more, and that is giving back to our local community. So we actually have a thing called Changing Tomorrow Day, where around the world, all employees can take one day off work and donate their time to charity. Okay, so we encourage that. We also do matching donation funds, so if an employee is working with a program, we'll match the funds for that type of charity. And it's something that we really believe is important, that we give back, because we work in the community and we should serve the community as well. So that's one thing I think is a bit different, because we actually take this quite seriously and integrate it into our daily activities in terms of work. In terms of our portfolio, I think if you look at the newspaper, you see a lot of companies struggling with patent expiries. They are dependent on 1 or 2 molecules. In our perspective, we're very fortunate to have a very broad portfolio. You can see we're in transplantation, so that's immunology. So you take Prograf or Avarograf to prevent rejection of organs. Okay, so it's liver transplant, kidney transplant, heart transplant. In urology, we have Vesicare, which is for overactive bladder. It has a high incidence, and it's what we call it's a silent disease. So a lot of men and women won't talk about it, but it's that sense of urgency where you have to go to urinate. And it's like if you're going out at night and you have to put your key in the door to run to the toilet, right? That sense of urgency. Well, a lot of times you have very little warning time. And that's why for women, they will wear pads, or men very quickly have to make sure they know where the toilets are, so you have toilet map. Omnic is for BPH, that's for the men version of LUTS. Dermatology, atopic dermatitis, a very serious condition that starts a lot of times in children, can also give asthma, so that's a product that's very important, which is protopic. Anti-infectives, we have Mycomin, Avelox, which you have 2 other products, which I'll talk about later. So we have now 4 products in that area. Pain management, Potenza, it's a capsaicin patch that you put on and basically makes people who have peripheral neuropathic pain. It's very difficult, very painful, and allows them to have pain-free. With one application, 3 months pain-free. It's amazing. We just launched that. And of course, the future everyone talks about is oncology. And if you look at Eligard, prostate cancer, so we've been doing that since 2004 in Europe. And then we have ribumustine, which is bendamustine, which is an important drug for us as well. And we have some other products. So as a company, we have a very broad portfolio, which is challenging for the resources, but it's exciting because we're not basically dominated with one product. And we can actually grow and have a very stable future, which makes us different from other companies if you look at the newspapers. Now, everyone, these are clips from the US, but I understand even here in Slovenia there are a lot of challenges about austerity measures, how to pay for an aging population, how to look at value for money for patients, a lot of drugs in oncology. So these are clips from the England on health technical assessment, like NICE, many times rejecting the first application for an oncology product, but later on having to reverse their decision because patients are very upset saying, why aren't you giving me access? So the issue about access for products and reimbursement and who gets paid and not paid is happening everywhere. Okay, so every government is very challenged by this. And the difficulty is, of course, they have a public healthcare policy of saying we want to give access, but at the same time, they have issues with their tax base, funding base, and the challenges are in that area. I think the good news for governments is in the next 2-3 years, globally, there's $100 billion worth of patented products going off patent. So actually, hopefully, with those patents going off, you'll have more funds for new products. So I think governments need to think very smartly about how they balance these issues, because unfortunately, the governments are rationing healthcare, right? There's limited resource, and the population, all of you, would like to be treated. So how are they going to manage those issues? And that's happening everywhere, everywhere. Interesting about our industry, we're facing some real big R&D challenges. And these are some statistics I find interesting and sometimes worrisome for us. But you look at 21 new molecules were launched in the global market in 2010 versus 26 in 2009, which is the lowest number in a decade. 55 late-stage terminations occurred. That means phase 3 studies, okay? And that's more than double the number in 2007 and 2009. Now, that could be good news, bad news. On one aspect is a lot of companies are looking at the data and saying, well, actually, this is not incremental value. It maybe is very equal to or marginal, so therefore they won't get reimbursement, so they decide to stop those products, okay? At the same time, though, if you don't have products, you have no future revenue, right? And unfortunately for all of us, our healthcare innovation is purely private capital. No government is investing in any type of research for healthcare. So you're actually dependent on the private sector to pay for the risk of developing innovation. So we're very closely linked with the healthcare systems, because if we're not able to get those revenues to invest, we invest 20% of our net sales in innovation, research and development, which is higher than most industries you'll find. So this is kind of a paradox that we have in terms of society. And then you move on to number of drugs entering phase 3, it fell by half in 2010. So, and now it costs between $1 to $2 billion US to bring one molecule to market. You start with 1,000 potential, you get to 1, you go to clinical trials, you get the end, and if you're lucky, you have a superiority or non-inferior, or you have nothing. So if you look at the news, you see a lot of companies' stock prices drop because the output of one of the studies didn't work. So this is a high-risk business, but at the same time, if we get it right, for us, for high unmet needs, is unbelievable. So if you look at breast cancer, you look at prostate cancer, people don't have to die anymore from those. They can actually live a long time. AIDS, HIV. So there's been a lot of innovations over the last decade that have tremendously impacted. But again, it's not easy. And I think some people just take it for granted. But, you know, science is serendipity. You just don't know what's going to happen despite best efforts, best plans. Mother Nature has a way of doing things that we don't expect. And so that's kind of our industry and our business. So in 2005, when Astellas merged together, we put together a Vision 2015, which was a 10-year plan. One thing that's great about working for a Japanese legacy company is they really think long-term, I would say, compared to a lot of Western companies. Just so you know, our company's been in existence between Yamanouchi and Fujisawa for 126, 130 years. Yeah. And so they have this long-term projection. We don't have to worry month to month, where other companies worry about quarterly results and year results. You know, we talk more about strategy, where we want to go, and then of course the numbers. So we do have shareholders, okay, but it's a different type of thinking, which is great for us, because we can really think about what's right to do for the business over the long term versus short term, which for me, working for SmithKline and Allergan was very different. So we want to be an R&D driven company. We want to make sure we have value-added products globally. So if you remember my list, we're in immunology, so grafts, which are very important in terms of transplantation, or prostate cancer. We're focusing on really where there's a high unmet need, where there's a difference. We don't want to be in where there's no variation, differentiation for products. And so therefore we've chosen what we call global category leader. And that is where a specific market we want to be a leader. If we can't be a leader there, we won't invest. Okay? So we're a limited company. We recognize that in R&D is very difficult, and we have to funnel and focus our research. Because if not, we'll spend a lot of money and get nothing, which is what happened to a lot of our competitors. So our goal from a European perspective is hopefully reaching 2 billion by 2015. Our current plan says that we will exceed that. We will continue to be a global category leader in transplantation and in urology. We will establish new franchises. I should put S there because we will launch 3 new franchises over the next 5 years, and becoming an employer of choice. So we want to be a company where people enjoy coming to work. When they get in their car, they're excited about coming here. We have different issues for employees and how we manage those. Single mothers, also people who have maybe family who are ill, those type of things which every day we try to accommodate to make sure that people can work and deal with some of the home issues, which, as you know, aging population, my mother as well, you have to deal with these situations, so we try to be a bit caring from that perspective. So you can see we talked about transplantation, GCL for urology, etc. These are some of the other research areas that we're looking at, but next is really about oncology. Now if you look at our pipeline for the next 5 years, we'll be launching more than 10 products. So my 26 years, I don't think in 5 years I've had this many products to launch. Half of these are internal, half of these are alliances. So what's happening a lot now with us is we're partnering with outside, be it institutions, other smaller biotech companies, so a lot of our oncology products have the Medivation, MDV3100 and Tivozanib are licensed in products for oncology. The next two, AC220, OSI906, are our internal molecules. You'll see we have anti-infectives, we have in terms of urology, we have oncology, we have pain. So we have a very broad spectrum, anti-infectives, in terms of what we're launching over the next 5 years. And that's what makes us different. Again, if you look at and benchmark against some of our other industry competitors, they're not in that situation. They're dealing with massive patent expiries. We've had 2 patent expiries over the last 5 years, but we've continued to grow 10% per annum. So we've managed our portfolio to deal with patent expiries, where again others have not done so well. So oncology is exciting for us. So prostate cancer, very important. Medivation is for basically hormone resistant. So some patients can take hormone Eligard to bring down testosterone levels, but some of them are resistant, which means their disease continues to progress. We now have a hormone resistant compound, which hopefully will make a significant life saving to those areas. So it's very exciting, and we'll have the data over the next 6 months. Then we have, of course, the blood cancers, hematological, bendamustine, which is worldwide now becoming quite a standard of care now, replacing the previous. And then we have Tivozanib, which I mentioned, licensed in for solid tumors. First is going to be red cell carcinoma, and then we'll be looking into breast and other type of tumors. So the thing about cancer, we have a platform technology that works in one tumor, then theoretically it works in other tumors. So you have to go tumor by tumor by tumor, lung, breast, etc. So that's quite exciting. But again, huge investments to make this work. Now, in terms of, we have new products. From a European perspective, our company has been expanding throughout Europe, Central Eastern, in terms of Russia. We've been in Russia since, I think, 1993, which is quite unusual, early time. So we've been with the good, the difficult times, and the good times, but also in other countries. And for us, it's very important to continue, and that's where we decided to look at Southeast Europe as our headquarters for this Adriatic region. And Adam will give more information regarding that. But clearly, when you look at this country, you look at the economics, it's stable. The education, the talent pool that you have here, you have a history within the pharmaceutical as well, makes it a rich area to actually have the headquarters here. So we're very excited to be here, and I thank you again for coming today. And, you know, my job really is to make sure that we understand what our customers' needs, and our customers are becoming more and more demanding. So you've got patient groups, you have hospitals, the payers, the prescribers, and most important is the patient. Now, our job is to make sure we generate and articulate data that shows that there is an incremental value. So we have to be more responsible. I mean, that's us we have to do. But at the same time, the challenge is no one agrees on what's the right methodology to calculate this. All right, so each country, each health technical assessment has a different methodology. So that makes it quite difficult from a company point of view, because Germany wants one data, UK wants another, and so we're hopefully getting some harmonization, because it makes no sense. The health economics experts need to agree on the right methodology to determine what is a valuable unit of health gain. That's what we talk about, is what is the health gain. And they have to agree to that. Without that, we're all going to be suffering from governments arguing about yes, no, in terms of drugs. And that's why you see someone like NICE or even France struggle with new products, because how do you value it? And a lot of data you'll find, some patient gets 2-year life extension, some will die in the first month. But they always use the average data. But we're not average, right? We're all individuals, right? So the mean data is average. Median is what we call the individual points. So with oncology, some patients can live very long, some die early. So should you get it? Should you get it? That's the issue that governments are debating right now. And it'll be very interesting to see how they solve that. So really, we have to make sure that we really focus on that. We have to satisfy everybody. And this is my last slide. So what my job to make sure the organization is really, I call it the R cubed strategy. It's the right product at the right time for the right patient. That's what we have to focus on. Everything else is distraction. I really don't care about my competitors. It's about the patient. It's about our data. How do we make sure that it is the right patient, the right product at the right time? If we do that right, and that's what we did very successfully with Prograf, Adrograph in immunology. We've done that with urology. It's just making sure we understand what our molecule does. Right, how it really benefits the patient. And there's everything from quality of life. Okay, so some drugs, for example, an overactive bladder, a lot of women will also take antidepressants, they'll take other things because of their condition. If you cure it, they take all the other secondary drugs off. So there's a lot of things you can do in terms of adding value. So that's really the key message I tell my organization, I tell R&D, just make sure we have the right data that we can demonstrate value.